What's up, YouTube? This is Brandon at the Movies, aka Let's Talk Horror Movies, doing a movie review called Mouse of Horrors. It's directed by Brendan Patricio. It stars Natasha Salini and Louis Santar. This is a public domain kind of horror film, which is kind of like is supposed to be kind of a Mickey Mouse inspired. It's a Mickey Mouse slasher, but it's really not Mickey Mouse. It is about it was a scientist doctor who created who experimented on a couple of people and turned them into disfigured creatures. Though when you watch the movie, he explained, well, specifically on the mouse killer played by Louis Santar. Santar, I believe it is. And he experimented on him. So he was in the prison system. So you can assume the other one that he worked on was also, I believe he mentioned both, because there's a mouse killer and a bear character, and they used the mouse from Blood and Honey. And the reason why they did this because it's from ITN Distribution. I apologize. Same U.S. Distribution company that distributed Blood and Honey 1 and 2, Peter Pan, Neverland, Nightmare, and they're doing the Twisted Childhood Universe along with Jagged Edge Productions. But Jagged Edge has nothing to do with this or some of these other public domain type stuff that's outside of there, so it's not connected to that. So going into this, I was curious because I saw the trailer for this and I was like, okay, there's potential here. If they can give you good enough carnage, kills, at least, I can have a good time with this. And pleasantly surprised, I did have a good time with this. For the first 2 acts anyway. The kills are pretty for the budget they had. I think they did a good job giving you the kills and carnage candy, whatever you want, for what they had to work with. And another big reason why I had a fun time with this for at least the first 2 acts. Throughout the whole movie, I had Louis Santar as the mouse killer. I think is great. I think he does a really good job commanding the screen with his performance, because he has to use his body, he has to use his cackling voice. He doesn't speak in the film, and the mask he wears actually I think is pretty creative, especially when you're comparing to, like, say, the Mousetrap, which was kind of, a lot of people did feel it was lazy and he was just wearing a hockey jersey, and it's supposed to be Mickey Mouse controlling the guy in the hockey shirt after he put on Steamboat Willie cartoon. And the way he speaks in that is supposed to be Mickey's voice. But here, it's not like that. It's just a Mickey Mouse looking mask. So some can be kind of like, okay, this is more of the cash grabby kind of vibe you get, where people say. But I think it tries to have its fun, and it's not trying to say it's Mickey Mouse. And I wonder if it's another thing they had to do legally wise or whatever, or it was never meant to be kind of like what Steamboat Willie is, or even the Mousetrap was, because that was to literally say Mickey Mouse in the movie. But here, I think they do a good job, and the look of the mask is creepy and it's effective, I think, for what you want. Yeah, and so I think that's where I would say, again, there was potential here in the story where they're going with it. Experimenting on people in prison, the prison system was interesting. I mean, you've seen it before, you've seen stuff like that, but I think you could do something with it here. But so getting into probably the negatives, the characters are not that interesting, and that's not on the fault. I don't want to blame it on the actors per se. I think the script, I don't know how fast the script was written. I just don't think they were given a lot to work with, and you know, to a lot to work with in terms of dialogue, and just like to be able to give out a strong performance outside of Louis Santar and even the actor who plays the scientist doctor. I think they give the most solid performances here. And I mean, the movie is set up to be, especially for the mouse killer character, he is set up to be the character you're watching for the kills. This is what you're watching it for. And I do appreciate that they put the effort into the kills to a degree with what they could do. And compared to like the Mousetrap, where they spent a bunch of money apparently on the set, the location, and they barely showed any of the kills until the ending of that, and that was pretty disappointing. Especially how long that movie does drag. Even though I gave it I try to be fair with it, I acknowledge that movie just drags. And I do have the review up for the Mousetrap if you want to go check it out, because that was fair. I watched it on I watched it with a friend, and it definitely felt more of a it dragged, and I already knew about the weaknesses of like the characters. If you thought the characters were weak in that one, I think that's another, again, weakness here. I wouldn't blame it on the actors per se or anything like that. I think it's a script, and as much as you could do as a director to get performances out, like I think also this is a time thing with these kind of films, and that's no excuse, but also being fair, like especially these public domains that are not the ones that are not, I think the Twisted Childhood universe, the Pooniverse stuff, are being much more taken care of, or much more being planned out, and those are much more, they do care. They want to get, they're getting more money each film, and they're putting the effort in. Like Bambi the Reckoning I think just finished editing, or if they just finished like production on that completely. I'm assuming they had to really work like editing and finishing touches on what Bambi looks like how it looks, because that's going to be very important for that movie. The same thing with Pinocchio. They had a lot of practical FX effects, and what they did when they brought in Todd Masters, I think it was Todd Masters who created the Pinocchio in that film, the look of Pinocchio. So that's what you want, in these, as much as you can. But to be fair, those ones, because the first Blood and Honey movie was successful in for the 3-day run it was, that's why it was able, it's getting the money, and the second one did well. Peter Pan, I think, is going to do well enough. I don't think it's going to get to the amount of money. I don't think they were planning on it to be that big hit like that. I think it just needs to do well enough, and maybe we'll see a sequel for Peter Pan. But nonetheless, with these ones that just get announced here, it shows like it just shows. And like some of the cinematography, it's just not like, there's some nice shots here and there, and when it's shot at night in the fair place, it can be effective. And I there's a shot where the mouse is driving a boat. I think that was pretty cool looking too. When I like that. It's kind of it's interesting looking visually. And that's what you want for these movies too, is to have a good visual aesthetic, be stylistic. There's some shots in the daytime that don't look like, there's one kill. At least the kill was, it was, it had some decent carnage, some blood in there. But there's a shot early in the movie while the characters are in the bar. This was in the daylight, and it's like, it just doesn't feel like, okay, if this was shot at night, it's not the worst thing I looked at, but it looks more not as cinematic, and that's the thing what the Twisted Childhood universe is able to do. And again, they have a really good cinematographer in Travis Knight, Vince Knight. I apologize, Vince Knight. and he's able to make that work with the budgets he has been able on the 3 Twisted Childhood Universe films. Here, I don't think they have that budget to be even to really what they want to do, and I feel like with and getting so okay, so yes, so visually there's some nice shots here and there. It's not the worst looking film they have done. Like it's shot well enough, but I think there's certain shots that you could look at as like you could do a bit better here. And it's mainly that one shot I noticed, and there's a couple things I'll get into. There's some sound things that they needed to be better in. There's some fight sequences towards the end with the father of the main character. And he's fighting the mouse killer, and it's just like barely any sound, or like how you would have certain sound, and it's just not as effective. There's a scene where someone gets hit in the head, and there's not an effective hit, and then it cuts, and it's just like things like that happen, and that's the weaknesses of these films when they don't get enough time or money to really do. But I can forgive that because sometimes you're in a time crunch here. The thing I'm really frustrated about this movie, and I'm still giving this a 2.5 out of 5, because I think the performances, mainly from Louis Santer, and the Carnage Kenny was fun enough. But they have 2 CGI scenes that are very damn noticeable. The ending one fits in with what the story is trying to tell. Because they hint at it throughout the film of they're trying to find body parts of women for the perfect brides. So the doctor's making the mouse killer and the bear brides. So interesting, right? Whatever you want to with that concept, just the idea, okay. But we don't get that fully until the very end. And oh boy, but that's not the scene particularly. It's not great. There's one other scene, and I'm not going to spoil it if you guys want to watch it. I hate spoiling, so I'm not going to. But oh my god, this is not the film to be using CGI stuff like that. That ending scene, I think you could have done something practical. That's the first CGI scene. Absolutely. What the fuck were you guys thinking? I'm sorry. But there's no excuse for having a scene like that in this movie. I don't care if there's hints of ocean and stuff. That is not the movie that this is doing. I'm just like, okay. In the very ending CGI scene, again, I think I don't like it because they don't have the budget for these. But at least that one fits the story, fits in with what was going on in the film. The first one, it's on a boat, and it just comes out of just happens, and you're just going, what the fuck, in a certain way. And I'm just going, oh my god. I mean, know what you can pull off. And this is going to, and I'm still going to check out some of these the Mouse Boat Massacre. My biggest hope, and this is another ITN release film, what I hope with that one, it's not as have any CGI like that, because that is just ridiculous. You cannot have that in this film if it's not going to look good or decent. And it's just it's unbelievable. It's like, and I don't know if this is the director wanting this. I don't know if this is the studio saying we want this scene in here. And if the studio, if the distributors are saying we want this, it's like, why? I want to know why. It's kind of ridiculous. I know this is my biggest thing. And I try to defend Jeepers Creepers Reborn. I have a good time with Creepers Reborn. I acknowledge that there's not good stuff in there, but at least, I mean, there's no excuses. I don't even know even getting into that, but I mean, I can enjoy movies can have, as long as it entertains. It can be a guilty pleasure. It can just be I had a good time with it, acknowledging its flaws with the visuals, CGI. But here, this is a movie that did not need what the first CGI scene on the boat happened. No, that should fuck that. This should be, in a way, a fuck it for this movie. But I had enough fun with Louis Santar and the kills for what it's worth. Yeah. And then they have the other character, the bear, which has the blood and honey mask. I'm not as mad about that. It just it feels lazy there. You could have came up with something else, but to be fair, what other mask they would have used or something for the character, because that one is not as clear because there's a scene where the doctor talks about how he experimented on the character the killer, aka Mouse Killer. I think he explains it about the bear. The bear was in that too, but when you look at the mask, it feels like, okay, we know this was someone that you worked on with the Mouse Killer, and he's wearing a mask to hide his deformed face, whatever it is. With the bear, it's like, okay, that's just like, we don't know if that's an actual, I assume the person's deformed as well, but it doesn't feel like that as much. So that was a choice to make, and in the end, this is a movie that it's not. Again, this is for a very certain group. If you dig these kind of movies, you'll have a fun time, because I think it has its fun moments. There's issues galore. There are issues with this film in general, so it's not perfect by any means. But the two scenes in the third act almost ruin it for me. And again, I wasn't loving, I didn't love the characters outside of the Mouse Killer. So again, one of the weaknesses of the film is the writing, or in time to be able to write any interesting characters, particularly performances. I'm not going to hate on performances, but no one stands out in terms of the human cat, the character, the protagonists, and the way that, I think this should have ended in a much more darker and bleaker way. But again, let me know what you guys think of House of Horrors. Did you guys like it? Did you guys love it? Did you just, this is the worst thing I've ever seen, or this is why you don't give a fuck about you're annoyed by public domain horror? Let me know in the comments below. This is Let's Talk Horror Movies. Signing off. Peace.